So what's all this about that?
Hello, it's me, Kyle. Welcome to Give Pause Hobby, the channel where I stop to appreciate the things I love to fill my free time with. We're back with another episode of So What's All This About? In this case, Marvel United, which dimension-wise might be a teeny bit smaller than Imperial. I haven't actually measured it, but denseness-wise, this might actually be giving it a run for its money. This is my collection of Marvel United, which I'll go over in a second. This is going to be the first of two videos. It's going Imperial style, where today, in this video, it's all about the cool stuff that's inside these two boxes. So I have the X-Men box here, so like the second base box, and then the stretch goal box from the original campaign. And it's filled with lots of cool things, and then next time will be all about the cool ideas of why I really love this game, which I do. But let's talk quickly about this collection. Hang on. So what I have inside here is the base game, the X-Men base game, and then some of the expansions, Spider-Verse, Black Panther, what was that one? Oh, right, Thor, Tales of Asgard, Guardians of the Galaxy, Sinister Six, and then the X-Men Blue Team, the one that allows this to be semi-co-op, so two teams of heroes that are both fighting the same villain, but trying to do so better than the other team. You'll notice there's a few missing things here. Primarily, the like campaign mode, the what's it called? Thanos, with the crystals and everything from the original campaign. And that's because when this first came out, just a brief history, I think I talked about this in my top 10 or my 10 game challenge, because this was part of that. When it was first on Kickstarter, I had a very love-hate relationship with what I was seeing, because it looked really adorable. It looked like a lot of fun, but also there were zero gameplay videos, which I and a number of other people thought was kind of a weird decision. And so I just had to like pour over the rule book, put that together with, you know, how the game looked, and it turns out I did in fact really like the game quite a bit. But yeah, at the time I was just like, I was holding off on it until almost the end of the campaign, and just following along with what was getting unlocked and everything, and finally said, you know what, I think it's going to be fun, and it should be a good fit, and if nothing else, you know, I'm gonna have this game with this should be a sizable box of stretch goals unlocked that I can sell. And but I just went in for the core game, and I was like, all right, I'm going to choose one single expansion, because at the time they were also saying all of this would be available retail. So I was like, well, if I like it, I can just kind of add things as I go. And I know my wife and I are, we love the Guardians of the Galaxy's movies, and thought she would really get a kick out of having a Groot guy in there. So that was the one expansion that I got. Fast forward to it arriving, it being, you know, just as kind of lighthearted and fun as it looked like it was going to be, and us enjoying it, but then things not actually hitting retail, because it said, you know, turns out it's not cost effective to produce all these at you know, numbers to distribute it. So sorry, we're not doing it. And you know, there was a time when I could have paid for it on the secondary market, but even the simple expansions, like those smaller boxes, like the Guardians one, were going for pretty decent prices. And I was like, I'm not that interested in the game. So come along to, oh right, and so I didn't do the all-in thing, because it was just, you know, it was already not like the most cheap game in the world. because built into the cost was, CMON assuming that they're going to unlock a bajillion things, which they did. But there are some projects that it seems like the stretch goals take them by surprise, and they're like, oh, geez, we did not charge enough for this thing that's now much, much bigger. That wasn't really the case for Marvel United. I got a lot of stuff. I'm not saying it's low on items, but I think they knew exactly what was going to happen. So when they came back with the X-Men campaign, I was like, well, now's my chance to get these expansions that I missed. I really would love the Spider-Man one. It would be great to have Black Panther. Sinister Six was a really cool, way to play the game that I, over the time of having the original, realized like that would be really cool to have. All this sort of stuff. And at the same time, though, as much as I love like this era of X-Men with, weird mask Wolverine and, big white hair Storm and Jean Grey and Jubilee and all very yellowed out. That was like the 90s era X-Men like animated series that I grew up with. And so I was really into this. But while most of the like stretch goals from the original campaign were people that I know, like at least roughly. I've never been like a huge comic book follower, like buyer of comic books, but like comic book adjacent, I know of them or watch the shows or whatever. So there are a number in the original stretch goal and I'm like, I don't know who you are. But in the X-Men one, that number just like went like enormous. And honestly, I was like, okay, there was a whole palava, Welsh word for, to do, when the original hit stores before it hit backers' front porch steps. I don't know if any of you remember that, if you were on the front lines or commenting or listening or whatever, but it was a whole thing. And I'll admit, I was a little bit miffed. I was like, what the heck? Like, I can see it right there in the store and I haven't gotten mine yet. I wasn't one of the ones commenting, but different strokes for different folks. Knowing that, my idea is like, okay, jackpot. I'll go in for the, $1 pledge. I'll buy the expansions that I missed out on. I will avoid the whole buying of the giant stretch goal monster, and I'll just buy the base game in stores, because the two core sets are actually in stores. But CMON being CMON and kind of knowing the score, there was no dollar pledge. The base pledge was the lowest you could do. So I was just like, okay, well, here's the deal. I'm still gonna buy the core set when it comes out. Actually, I got it through Amazon. And I guess I have to pledge the base game, like the X-Men one with all the people I don't know. And then I'll get the expansion. So this was a, hefty, the first one was a hefty price tag, just the core set and one expansion. I got 1, 2, 3, 4 expansions, and then the core set. And it's like, yikes. But I wound up selling the core set and the big box of stretch goals just as soon as I got it. And just like, zoom, send it off to somebody else. And, didn't make a ton of money, but I just didn't pay money for a bunch of minis that I would never use, because this is super full. And that was my long rambling talk about how I came to this. What you're going to see inside here is someone who has all of Marvel United, they would not be able to fit it in these 2 boxes. And honestly, if I had everything from all the sets, neither would I. But there are a number of minis, a number of characters, like a small number, like 5 or something, that are just ones that I, again, from the base, like stretch goal like box, I have zero knowledge of, no interest in them. And I'm sure there are people in my game groups who, if I, was like, oh, here's also this character, they'd be like, what? I can play as this one? But to me, I'm like, I don't care. And again, I have more than enough in here. So they live in a box that's somewhere in my like storage, like my big huge garage at home. So this isn't even everything from the boxes I own, but it's everything that I have a strong idea that would get played. So after a super long introduction, let's bring it over to the table so I can show you the cool things that are inside here and how I have stored them. So without any further ado, let's go. All right, so to start, again, these are the two boxes. So they had three sizes, three size profiles. Like the core boxes are roughly like normal board game size. The stretch goal boxes are just about twice that tall, maybe a little less than twice. And then they're like a 2/3 or like half depth. Maybe there are even two different ones, but the expansions were a little bit, shallower than this box. So I've figured out a way, not just myself, but as you're going to see, there's a lot of Tom Teaches stuff in here, like the boxes that things are kept in. So I will put links in the description because I'm really going to try to talk just about the stuff, because there's a whole episode about the ideas, but a really quick one because it involves the stuff. This game, as quick and fun and like easygoing as it is, not easygoing, but like easy to get to the table, would not be that way if I didn't have it organized in this way. So this is a game I have some in my collection. This is one of them that if it weren't really organized, that's not just me being like over the top. Like I don't know how often I would play this game if it wasn't done really efficiently or as efficiently as I have decided is efficient enough. So anyways, I'm gonna save this big one for right now. I'm gonna start here. So boop. On the top, I have the Sinister Six board, which again, really cool way to play. Here are a couple of the main dashboards. These are identical. They're from both core sets. And then this is if you're playing with the two teams. Then inside that, I have some of the villains here. Now, this is the first glimpse at the Tom Teaches boxes. I have not done the world's best job of like making these, actually putting them together, because I had to make a number of them. But that does not change the fact that they are really great, super high quality, and you can customize them like online, or not online, like on your computer. I just did it, hand jammed it, and the way I organize most of them is alphabetical, and then just listing where they are. The red boxes are for the villains, and as you'll see, the blue boxes are for the heroes. The one exception being for Sinister Six. Like these are all bad guys. You can play with them individually, like anyone else. So if I wanted to just play Mysterio, I could disentangle him from Doc Ock, and then man, these minis. I want to play this game again just so I can play with the minis. So you can play them all as a normal, villain, but the big draw for the Sinister Six is obviously playing them together, where you face all 6 of them in a modified format. Because if you just played 6 normal villains, like you would have 0 chance of ever winning. So I put them in their own box. So that's 2 of these boxes, and I'll keep these around so you can see, I don't think I'm going to go open up every single box and show you every single mini, because if you are even, I'll show you some minis, but if you are aware of this game, you've probably seen pictures. You've maybe even seen pictures of the people who have gone through and painted all these, which is awesome, and I will never ever do. So this is the heavier, honestly, of the 2 boxes, because this is all the cards. So every hero and every villain has their own deck of cards unique to them. These are also Tom Teaches cards that I I think are really awesome. I have not printed out the ones from the new cards that I've gotten. I tried printing out a different way of doing it, which I think is really cool because it shows you all the different, all these decks are different composition. But I don't know. I spent the money to have them printed and then like take the time to cut them out and everything. But I do really like just like the tabs, how Tom teaches, like they fit perfectly and they're double-sided, so you can, no matter who you have, it's not like you need them to be in the perfect order in order for the alternating tabs to work. So I have all the heroes, all the villains, and worked in there are the, if there's, it could go either way, like a hero or villain character, they're on both sides. And then all of the mission cards over here are, which you're like, why is the mission cards just like tremendously thick? That's because these are all the, I really do want to play the game again. These are all of the heroes. These aren't the villains, these are just the heroes. And what I did, because one of the easy things you can do to adjust the game is there are different difficulty levels. So this is their wild symbol, and you can remove either the one wild symbol or the two. Every deck has those two cards guaranteed, single wild, double wild. And to make it like hard mode, you take this out. To make it like nightmare mode or something, you take out the two, and then to make it like crazy mode, you take out both of them. Since I normally play with this card removed, I thought, perfect, I can just keep these all together in, this is not alphabetical order, it's just, I have no idea what order this is. It started as alphabetical and then it just like quit. But for when we're playing, this massive deck, because I used to just like point to the expansion or the stretch goal box, because that was everybody from the base set and in the expansion, like actually no, maybe that's just the stretch goals that are on there. But in any case, I would kind of like gesture to the pictures on the box. Well, now I have all these expansions and stuff, so this is how I give it to people to say, all right, who do you want to play? Because there's a lot of people, and so those all go in there with the mission cards, and that's how we figure that out. So that's that box. Let's adjust. Put this over here. I guess I'll put, how about that on top of it. Put those boxes there, and let's crack into this one. So again, this was the original game's stretch goal box. Here are all my rule books that I showed you before, from all the different expansions that I have, which are important because there are some rules that are relevant. Here are these printout challenge things. An FAQ. But so there's also one of these for the X-Men style one. It's achievements if you want to keep track of that stuff. Now I track everything on BG Stats as well, but this is kind of a fun way if someone really doesn't have a strong idea of who they want to play. They could say like, all right, who have you not won the game with, or which villains have you not beaten? So there's that. So first off, like all the heroes, here are all the different villain dashboards. I don't know why these ones are, oh, because these are the Sinister Six ones. Why would that matter though? Well, it doesn't. So again, just so many options to choose from, which is a huge draw of the game. And hand this out, say, all right, who do we want to play as? And we can randomize it. We can have someone choose because they have a strong opinion, however we want to do it. Supervillain mode, I don't really know how that works. I haven't used it yet, but the weak spots, that is for the Sinister Six mode, which is cool because it's different than the normal game. here are the locations. For the longest time, I was just mixing these together, but I think I'm going to go the opposite way. And I think they are on the back, like you have the Enter the Spider-Verse ones, Guardians. Oh, it looks like I already did because I decided this after the last time I played. Rise of Black Panther. So instead of mixing them all together, which I thought was kind of like a neat aspect of the game, it kind of gets weird because there are quite a few. Let's see if I can find one. I mean, this is one, but that's not the main kind of bummer one. There it is. So like the X-Jet, end of turn, you may move to any other location. Super important to have something like that. This is really helpful. But when you have 2 or 3 locations that were randomly drew from the deck that were that thing, I mean, I guess I could just say we'll just keep drawing until you don't get one like that. But I don't know. I think I'm going to try it out the way I've never done it before, which is when I choose a layout, like who the villain is and who the heroes are doing, then we say, all right, and whose universe do we want to play? Maybe without looking at sort of like how you pick your villain, your setting, and your heroes in Sentinels of the Multiverse. So without looking at, what the specifics are, just ask the group, like, all right, where do we want to have this take place? So those are all the tiles. Okay, almost to the meat and potatoes. So there's a lot of stuff here, and I actually, in regards to like these main action tokens and the other stuff, I have divided them into like the ones that I'm actually probably going to use, and then the rest of them. And the rest of them live again in that box with the rest of the heroes. This seems like it's only part. I must have some at home somewhere, because otherwise with the 2 base games it would just be way too many. So here are all like the civilians and the thugs and the tokens. Here are the health tokens. Here are pretty much like anything weird, like anything that a certain villain would need. Is that true? Are these villains, or are these the... I think I said, yeah, this is kind of like a random grab bag. And then I have some that, like, this is the Black Panther challenge. This is the Enter the Spider-Verse challenge. And then this is the blue team stuff. You put these little base holders on there and you unlock the different missions, like defeat thugs, save heroes and all that, based off of which team did it, because you're on 2 different timers. Again, fighting the same villain, but trying to do it better than the other one, which I think is a hilarious, challenge. Okay, so for the next part, let's do this. Let's move this off to the side, and we're going to just say, here are the villains. All right, I'll do it in 2s. And here are the heroes. So it looks like I have about 10 that I fit into the hero boxes, and about that for the normal villains as well. Obviously not for Sinister Six. Again, in my kind of janky but works perfectly well system, using Tom Teach's boxes, which again are delightful and awesome. I just alphabetized them, and which means sometimes like ant through cap. It's not just letter through letter, because I had to start with Cyclops. So I put all of the heroes out. I remember when I did this, I'll have to see if I have a picture of it. And that was how I had to see, like, all right, how am I going to fit these into however many boxes? I didn't know how many boxes I needed to print, because I had boxes for the original game. And obviously mine are not painted. I don't think I'm gonna, oh man, I love the Gambit mod. Gambit, the actual character in the game, I'm not as big of a fan of, but the model is awesome. I don't know if I'm ever going to actually paint these, which means that for the time being, this method of storage is perfectly fine, because they're just like slammed together. But if I ever did want to paint it, I might need to change things up, and you know, we'll see if I ever need to cross that bridge, because honestly I don't think I am going to. As much as, I mean, they just like scream out like to be painted because they're so vibrant. I mean, when you look at these like hero cards, it's like they look so good, and they're not overly, you know, detail filled. So in theory, you definitely could, I think in like good but like not insane paint jobs, make these out to look like they look in their pictures. But I don't know. I think I can paint, but I can't paint necessarily super well. And I feel like I would just be perpetually stuck in that uncanny valley of, yes, they would be painted. Yes, they would be roughly the colors I want them to be. But A, that would take just an enormous amount of time. And I already have enough War Cry models that I need to paint still. And B, I would probably perpetually live in a place where I'm not super happy with the quality, and then I'm like, I should have just kept them unpainted, because then you can just see the you know, details right in them. Oh, I should say, so in here, nope. Strike two. With the X-Men stuff, there are purple models. That's because some of them, Magneto and Mysterio, I think are the only ones, because the others were, in the stretch goal box, which again, I got rid of. There were a couple of these that I do wish I had, because these can be villains or heroes. You have decks for both, because in the lore, you know, in the universe, they have been both. Because there wasn't any more room in the hero boxes, I kept them. And like, let's be real, when people think Magneto, they're not typically thinking like when he was a hero. They're thinking when he was doing something bad. So those two purple ones are in the bad guy boxes. But again, like this, it's just a sprawling collection of, again, I will say this forever, board games are just toys with rules, and this is, you know, is that times 100. Just like how cool it is if you're even like adjacent to being a follower of the, again, like me, I've watched the movies, watched the shows, read some comics, but not been like a diehard collector of them. And it's just so fun looking at all the different people. The sculpts are incredible. I mean, Simon, as much as, and I will, I don't have any like deals to put in jeopardy, but I will be honest and I'll say, you know, the first campaign, I wasn't, like I said before, I wasn't thrilled with how it was run, because I was like, I want to see how this plays. And it came across to me like a little bit weird that they would be withholding that. I'm sure there was a good reason for it, but it came across like they didn't want people to know exactly how the game played. They wanted to cash in on the FOMO that they must have known they were creating. You know, hindsight, or, you know, now that we live in a post-campaign world, we know, or at least I know, I love this game. I think it's a ton of fun. But I'm sure that there are a bunch of people who don't like it so much because it doesn't have that like really crunchy mechanical depth that something else might. And to them, who may have bought the game because the models look awesome, they might be a bit miffed, because if they would have seen gameplay, they would have been like, this is not for me. But obviously it doesn't matter to me because I'm not them. All right, so now let's put things back. And I'm pretty sure I can roughly remember how that went. And put these off to the side. Two of those in there. So yeah, this is in my storage solution for the boxes that I have. This works out really well. It's you know, I wish there was a way that I could store all of the minis in one box, but you know, in the grand scheme of bummers, that's pretty low key. Low key. Stupid. So in you know, the solution that I have, I think works really well, because I've always been of the mindset that like if I can put a game into, you know, if I can put all the expansions into the base box, like I for sure will. Now how would I do this? There we go. Yeah. If I can consolidate down, I will every time, because to me it's, again, easier to get to the table, and that's the most important thing to me. If it's organized well. Now if it were just like slamming a bunch of things into a box and then never knowing how to actually get it to the table once I pull that box off the shelf, that's not so useful. But in this case, it's a pretty nice system, because, you know, I'll start by handing out all these cards, and usually, again, if people are even halfway comic adjacent, yeah, like, God, that Jubilee, it's just, I love like the logo, like every one of them has their own little logo, which is important because then that's in all their decks, so you can easily tell them apart. But yeah, I mean, and this is, like I said, this is with me not including some of the characters that came along with it. Like one that just comes out of, it sticks out to me, Spider Pig came with this version. I do not care. I do not have any connection to Spider Pig aside from knowing that that Homer Simpson sang the song about Spider Pig in the Simpsons movie. I don't know, like before or after him doing that, like when Spider Pig was actually in the Marvel universe. But again, there are like 5 heroes like from all the games that I own now that just aren't in these boxes, and I still have this many things to choose from. So it's just a huge world of gaming contained in these 2 sizable boxes when you put them together. So yeah, that's what's inside. So that's the cool stuff. And I know I, you know, at times was dipping my toes into the cool ideas category as I was talking about the stuff, but such is the nature of board games. Again, it's not just components, it's intertwined, at least once you play the game. When you first open the box, your brain is in 2 different categories. You're thinking of like what the things are and what the ideas are. But once you play the game, those combine. And in a lot of ways, at least to me, it's hard to disentangle them. You know, these minis are just going to be fun no matter if I've played with them or not, if I know the heroes or not. But some of the other components, I will, you know, the reason why I might call them out is because they have a cool way of being played in the game. But, you know, I suppose it's just a fancy way of me saying the first of these 2 videos is, if it has to be 2 because it's big enough, the first one's going to be a unboxing with more blabbering. So thanks for watching my talkative unboxing. But yeah, that's Marvel United, a game that I struggled of whether or not I was going to actually back in the olden days, and obviously now, with the benefit of hindsight, it's in my 10 game challenge. If I had to keep just 10 games, this would be one of them. And next time we can talk more about why, because yes, it's wonderful to have this dense of 2 boxes of stuff, but the reason I'm keeping it in my 10-game challenge isn't just because the stuff is great. It's because the ideas are great too. So without any further ado, we'll see you next time. And until then, happy gaming. Bye, everybody.